is important not just through divulgation, but also to the awareness that this generates and also the effort that we make to take care of what we have. To talk about the loss of biodiversity, it is important to know first what biodiversity is. And if we divide this into two, we can talk about bio, that is life, and diversity. So we're talking about all the different life forms that exist in the planet. Since the smallest microscopic life to the largest as the whales. The blue whale, which is the largest animal. So all these organisms live and they are different. They have different shapes, colors, sizes, and they live in different places, different features. So they are very different from each other. And we can group them in different species. And these species have a biological goal that is to preserve themselves, to grow. And these ones are special because they have the peculiarity that when reproducing, they can generate new individuals that are going to continue with this species. So we call them species. And this is what the biodiversity has. And these species have also a large variety. They might seem very similar, like humans, but even in humans, we have different races and we have morphological variety. That means different anatomical features, physiological differences, the way we function, because sometimes it looks the same, but it's not the same. We have also genetical variety that is inherited and also the behavior. And some that we are born with and others that we acquire. And this happens also with other types of life. And it goes beyond races and species. We also have years and years of evolution. And we have this large variety that goes from atoms that might be different inside the body. So a single body of a single species can have different types of atoms. And these atoms form cells, and these cells are very different according to the type of cell. We can group them in different groups that are going to form tissues that at the same time form other parts of our bodies with different functions. These organs form systems, and the conjunction of these systems form us as individuals that we are, and we are species. And when we are in a single species or the same population, we live in these populations, and when we gather all these populations, we can talk about an ecosystem that includes the place where we live, and then we have biomass and biospheres too. So we can go from the basic, that is atoms, to the macro level, that is the planet, and all this has biodiversity. Now, at a macro level, we have these different biomas or general groups where we have certain types of life. Like we can see here, the poles with the cold areas, all these parts of the ocean. We have jungles, forests, deserts, tundra, grass, Havana, different areas where different types of biodiversity live. And now, if we go in another part of the scale, we can see that these biomass are formed by different ecosystems. I'm sure that you've heard this phrase that is really common that said Mexico is a very diverse country, and that's true. We shouldn't be tired of saying this because actually it is formed by different ecosystems. We have a different combinations of them, and we have different types of species too. And we have species that are not in other places. So let's go from forest, jungle, grass areas, mangroves, marine, islands, etc. Why do we have this variety of ecosystems? In our country, we have different types of weather. We have humidity, we have dry places, hot places, we have mountains, we have cenotes, we have mangroves. So we have this variety of light, depth, types of water, types of soil. And if we combine these, the possible ways, we're going to have different types of ecosystems that is telling us all the biodiversity that we have. So having all these different combinations is going to give us the different types of habitats for all the species. And these habitats have also variety because one ecosystem can be divided into micro habitat and also the borders over this ecosystem ends. We have this border between habitats where we can see different types of species. So all these possible combinations form this biodiversity in our planet and also in our country. Now that I know what biodiversity is, let's see why this is important. Biodiversity itself has a value that can be just in a single classification. We're going to talk more about this intrinsic value. And it also provides water that is something vital for us, food, services, goods, raw material, medicine, and natural resources. And if we assess this, how much, or what's the cost of biodiversity? What's the price of it? Here, for example, we can see this flower with the bee. And do you know how much it is? Do you know the cost of it? It is hard to say because maybe we can say the price of another animal from the ocean because this is a different type of value because it is something we're going to eat. But what's the function of it in the system? That was the lobster. But now let's talk about the flower. If you go to the market and you get a rose, it has a price. Okay, it has an aesthetical price. But how much is for a cricket? I don't know. But there are some places like Oaxaca where you can get a kilogram of them. And how much? How much is a bee? Just to get an idea about how much it will cost, giving a number. If we take the most important from it, that is the honey, that has a cost too, but just the work they perform in the planet, just the work of pollination, including the protein and everything it represents, all the work they do. Yearly, it is calculated in 5,732,983. That is more than 5,000 millions. That's the cost of it. And we have to do this job, and that will cost us money. So we go back to this question. Regarding energy, a dolphin, a whale, the water. How much is it? What's the cost of it? The water we use, sand, In biodiversity, this does not have a price. So we need to learn the value of the species. Well, this value is something that we can see or understand through the harvest, the cattle, fishing, agriculture, and also the wild food, the fibers, fertilizer, the ones that we use to dress ourselves, the ones that we use in our homes, wood, oil, minerals, energy, everything we use, all these resources that are in our biodiversity. And this also regulates the climate. It helps us to have water. It regulates the temperatures because without this biodiversity, everything will be really hot and we will die. It also protects the coast from the waves, from hurricanes, tsunamis, storms. And it eliminates the carbon from the atmosphere. It helps us with oxygen so we can breathe. It forms the soil. It controls the plagues, illnesses, regulates and improves the water quality that we drink, the air we breathe, and it has an important value because it is also the educational value, cultural. All the symbols that we use from the different species, it also has an inspirational value, a spiritual. Something easy at the dove, in the religion. It is important because it has a spiritual value, social, something that helps us to feel belonging, to work with ecotourism, and this is actually under a high price, among others. It's not just their feeling that we give to it, but also the one that it will have, and it's not just money. Now that we know what biodiversity is and what it works, okay, how do we lose it? Among all the different factors, I'm going to take only five, that is overexploitation, the destruction of the habitats, pollution, introduction of new species, and the change in the climate. Topic that we're going to see during these 2 days, overexploitation. The problem is not using the species. The problem is using them in a very fast rate. It's a high rate, and we don't give them time to reproduce themselves because they are not able to reproduce the number of organisms that we are using. It wouldn't be any trouble if we use just part of it so we can wait for them to regenerate. The problem is that we are doing it really fast. We are taking more than when it is being regenerated. And this is exhausting the resources. And of course, they cost more. And now we can talk about the extinction of some species. For example, the bees. We will have to pay more than 5,000 million pesos for the job they perform. And another cost is the destruction of the habitat. Okay, the need of building, improving. So all these habitats get lost. But remember that all these places that we destroy are the places of biodiversity. And sometimes we say that we don't destroy all of it, just part of it, because maybe we build a house, a highway. But this modifies the ecosystem, the soil. It pollutes it. It's not destroying everything, but at the end, when you destroy the place or the habitat, well, the species and pollution. One of the subjects, or the most important subjects nowadays, well, that's pollution. We can define it in different ways. And one of the most important, I believe, is the nocive alteration of the pureness or be polluted by different physical, chemical, and it is also the introduction to substances in an ecosystem through our living or physical living, or the negative alteration from a natural state, and as a consequence from an activity as the ones we have. That's what we call environmental impact. I'm not getting deep into this subject because there are different types of pollution. We're going to talk about one of the most important in the ocean, that is plastic. And we also have solid, liquid, gases, acoustic, mineral, visual, thermic, and radioactive pollution. These are the most important. And then we have the introduction of invaders. The lionfish is very famous here. It was introduced by humans, but what's the problem of introducing a new species in a system where it didn't exist before? It looks nice, it's pretty, especially in the fish tanks. But since it is a new species, well, it eats all the other species that are important and the ones that keep life. For example, here in the Caribbean, we're talking about the reefs, and well, they don't have any predators, so they eat everything in front of them. So they change the ecosystems. They kill and extinguish biodiversity, the local biodiversity. They also affect the structure and processes of the ecosystem. Species do not reproduce, and then it is a domino effect. What's the final consequence of these invaders? Unloyal competence. They finish with other species. They reduce the populations and they can take them to the extinction. Okay. The change, the climate change. This is the modification of the temperature and the patterns of the weather in the planet. And in the last 200 years, there has been an acceleration in the change, something fast with temperature due to the industrial activities, the burn of fossil fuels, cattle, and the use we give to this biodiversity has accelerated the cost, and it has accelerated also this change. So what happens with this? It's too hot, too cold, so species cannot live in their places. And of course, they change their behavior, they migrate, they go to another place trying to find new ways of living or coexisting. And this diminishes the survival of the new generations. And they are modified genetically because they cannot or adapt as fast. Okay, we know what biodiversity is, we know the importance of it, the causes, why we should lose it. But what happens? What are the consequences that these loss? The habitat, with the species, with that the value, not just economical, but it is going to be something that is going to cost. Pollution, degradation of water, soil, the air, wind, live. We're going to have immense resources because they're going to be more expensive, hard to find them. Illnesses will plagues, pandemic. So the level of the ocean, the loss of wet mixtures, extreme climate, among others. I'm going to try to land this topic with what I work in the research. And when we talk about biodiversity, We talk on different types of mammals that live in the ocean. In the ocean, that is there. And we also have catches. It what is animals? All these species are the 67% of these. And we're talking about whales, dolphins, and we also have moose. We also have like lipids, like seals, and we also have carnivorous. We also have some new species that we can see here, like the ones that live in the river. Then over there. Now, the waste is classified as this type of mammal, also a bat. See, you have whales, dolphins, and also mass. Or those other animals too, we're counting with 35 species. To Congo. These two types, it's been classic, countries, and these two, these two species, and carnivores. We also have the following bear, one of the most controversial creatures to be marine mammal is to count with three conditions. One, it is that they live in the ocean, and the ocean, and it's marine. And if we see this, as they can swim, they can dive, and they have potential. However, they're still to die. The high 80 to 90% is solo concepts. I think that they don't live in the ocean because they are not or but they are not on land all the time. They are on ice. And what is ice? It's a solid thing of water. So it lives in the ocean, but in the solid in water. And the last that is considered a mammal too is a fisher bat. It covers with all these functions. It's from the ocean, lives near the ocean, and it's also adapted. Now that we know about this world biodiversity, if we go just to our country, we have different types of ecosystem. Mexico has the 39% of the biodiversity of marine mammals. We're talking about 133 different species, cetaceans, and we have 29 independents and several that is significant for species. And we also have the marine. And if we go to the Gulf of Mexico, we have 26% of the world biodiversity with 133 different species. Cetaceans with 33. Start here because this is already extinguished, and we're going to talk about the consequence of this. Nutrients, and we have sirenias too. We don't have in the Gulf of Mexico. We have the ones from the river. And these are the others. And in Yucatan, we have the 22% of the world biodiversity with 29 species, and that is tiny, small pinnipeds. And if we see this type of diversity, we have the 3% of the world. And in this star, we're talking about the one sail in the Caribbean. It is already extinguished. It doesn't exist anymore. This was their habitat here, the Caribbean, this part, not just Mexico, Central America. It was the only one adapted to live in these conditions close to us. It was discovered in the first trips by Christopher Columbus. They were called and later in 1850 was described by Correo. But since Columbus discovered it, they started to hunt it. And before Spaniards came, coming out that they were hunting in a massive way. And this is a species that was not really hunted. And there are some tales that where you can see they say that they were many of them in the coast and people would hunt them and they couldn't avoid them if they would reject this because they didn't know they were going to be hunted. So it was easy to find them. They used their skin, the oil, and then fishery, coast development showed this species reduced in number and all these resources, of course. And this is the one photo that I have of this species. And the last time that it was seen, it was in 1952 between Jamaica and Honduras. This is the last one that was seen. 50 years after this, it was declared the agreement on the preservation of the species. What does that mean? Well, they were trying to, but they didn't know they weren't that known anymore. So the last thing we have, but the only thing that we had was this that was 10. We didn't know how much it will cost us. Another subject is Oceanos. It is also under, it's an endangered species. 27 years ago, I remember that I talked about this, and they said, guess what? We have another planet. We only have 567 in the country. And the figures are reduced. So, in that year, 1997, this species was declared as an endangered species in the moon. But it's still going down. 11 years after this, they said, hey, do you remember? We have 245, and we used to have 567. And then 2014, 97, 2015, 59, 2016, only 30. And then in the 2018, less than 10 individuals. And after the expedition of 2023, they said they're just less than 9. They don't even say 1 or 2, so they don't get into trouble. They just mention that it's less than 9 because this is the only species, this smallest species in the world that is more in Mexico. So those expeditions that is only in this country for a very special reason, it's a problem. What's the problem? Why are we listening? The incidental. Well, what happens here? We have these by catch, as we call it, it is by catch that they get it. It's not on purpose because they go in the currents and this is their place, so they don't know this is a mammal, so they get stuck in the net, and since it is a mammal that needs to breathe, to go out and breathe, they are not able to go, so they die. And this time, it is a very nice species. It is small. It is only in the Gulf, and it's been extinguished. So it was for them Díaz. We also have the criminality. This an endangered species too. And in 1976, it was believed that it was abundant that there were more than 5,000 in Mexico without caught in Central America or West. From Tamaulipas, Veracruz, Tabasco, Chiapas, Campeche, Yucatan, Quintana, was connected by the populations. They were well, happened to be and in 2007, they were hunting, and as you can see, it is not homogeneous. They were isolated populations in different areas. Quintana Roo, Tabasco, Tamaulipas. And in the last research that was performed in the plan for the conservation of these species in 2021, they said that there were between 800 to 1,100 where in this area that is Tabasco and Campeche, where they have around 600, and Quintana Roo, where they are between 200 and 250 in the Chetumal Bay. And that is a problem because there is nothing in Tamaulipas. Well, in Barbados there used to be the war, but now they just there's nothing. And here with the rivers, so in these river systems that we have, because they have many areas like this, they just pass by. And it's the last 15 years of researchers show that there's some in Yucatan. I don't know if this was that the species is improving, or maybe they are just crossing from this place to that area, because we only have these two populations here and they are isolated. They are not communicated. So in the last 10 years, we've seen the transition of these animals that was not there before because they're eaten by others. And here you see, this is a manatee. Why is this endangered? Because of the hunt, because they get it by catch. It doesn't have predators, just the human. And when they start, and since they swim very slow, also the boats hit them, pollution, they lost up their habitats, the type of water. So these populations get English 98. And at least in Yucatan, it was already declared that there were zero manatees. And then in 2020, well, we can say that we have some of them and we want to have more. Well, we already know what biodiversity is, the cost and the importance of it, how we can visit, but not everything is bad. We need to try to reverse this loss of biodiversity. How are we going to do this? Well, we have different solutions. One, in ecology, in the last years and recent years, it is not the species, it is the ecosystem. So we need to manage everything according to the ecosystems. And this includes the value and the use we give to this resource, to this biodiversity. And how much is a mangrove? How much is the reef a year? So this management has to be based on the ecosystems. And then it is important to know that actually they don't need to be managed. We just leave them there and they will do everything by themselves. They have their own dynamics without any human interaction. But to work with the human interaction, the ecosystem. So we need to be one more part of this type of responsibility. We really need to manage the human interaction. We need to recognize also the ecosystems because they change their time. They are not fixed. And this interaction is something that needs to be protected by protecting their integrity and to minimize the negative impact that we humans produce. And through this management, we have this that means that it has to be reactive before being proactive. That means that we need to adapt to be able to react on time. We also need to work with research that is maybe reoriented research to the ecosystem as a part of a component of many different pieces. It's not just to protect manatee, but also to protect the ecosystem, the lagoons, the place where they live, the places where they go, the different types of soil, to check the pollutants, the plastic, the filters, the quality of the water, the fisheries, everything. So all these are indicators of the management we're going to perform to help this. So we need to assess and adapt constantly. We need to evaluate the risk. And we also need to use different types of disciplines. It's not just research, but also politics, the management, pollutants, and all these different types of impact. It is not the same when you have only one single piece of garbage to dispose something, but the impact of all of us together every day, and it is accumulated through all the years. And also to try to keep the system natural as much as possible. So, not to adapt this to human, but the point is that the human adapts to the system. We need to try to do this in a friendly way so we can minimize the impact. And as individuals, we from our homes, our family. So what can we do? Well, we can fight the invaders. We can support research and conservation to restore and preserve the natural habitats, to avoid the destruction of the natural habitats, or create natural areas that are protected that can be open for some species, and to use their resources in a responsible way to reduce the consumption of energy with the new products, to go for sustainable products, to promote also the sustainable agriculture, the circular one instead of the linear one, to consume local too, to reduce our pollution, to fight the illegal hunting, to avoid over-exploitation of the natural resources, to go for the new regulations, to participate in the public consultation. What is our opinion important at the way we see things in the place where we live? Why is this important when something is going to be fueled? It's also important to keep informed. And what we're doing right now, all the effort that Finas is making, like this forum, it is very important. The value of all we are doing here is not just for biodiversity, but also with other people, to make people aware, like as I said, to know how much I will be. And there is something we say, people do not take care of the things if we don't know them. But we know, we care, and we start to work on that. So it is important to keep biodiversity and also to spread the voice and the information to others. And finally, different actions that we can perform, and these are the 7 R: to redesign, to reduce, to reuse, to replace. to fix, to renew, to recover. Isn't that our design is to make sustainable products that can be sustainable, or at least to have a less impact, to reduce shopping new products, to reduce the use of the energy. Maybe I don't need the air conditioner if I'm not there. Maybe just a fan I can transmit on and out from environments. I don't need my house to be cold to me if I'm not there. So let's reduce products and energy. So the pollution that will generate, and the reuse. Let's try to reuse the plastics. It is cheaper to repair than to get a new one, something new. But nowadays, we have got this idea of getting a new model, maybe the latest. Maybe it has a slight thing that is better than the last one. So we always want to get a new one. We are following this fashion to renew those products that we have that might have still some life. Maybe we just need to update them instead of getting a new one. What's that do not work? Well, maybe we can recover or recycle the material. We can reuse the plastic, metals, minerals, recycle them well. Let's separate the garbage too, so we can return those products or parts of the items that were used so they can work again. So this is what I wanted to tell you about the loss of biodiversity, its consequences, and what we can do to solve this. I would like to conclude now, and thank you for this input. And hopefully that the purpose of what we're doing today, for you to having heard and learned a little bit, if you didn't know about this, if you knew it, you strengthen your knowledge. The idea is that you share this with somebody, your family, your friends, and you will have formed a network of knowledge that will help us take care and avoid the loss of biodiversity, which we don't know the loss or the cost of the woodlands. Thank you, Sister. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you so much. Don't leave, please. Before giving you a token of our appreciation, I would like to see if you have any questions from the audience. If you would like to ask a question, this is a moment really benefit that he's here. If you want to ask any questions, I will go down to bring you the microphones. Thank you. Thank you so much for the talk, Doctor. What is the function of manatee in the ecosystem cycle? Very much. By itself, manatee is herbivorous. It eats plants only. So when he eats these plants, as you know, if I cut a branch of a plant or it breaks and it falls to the ground, a new plant will grow. So when the manatee does this, when it breaks the plants, he contributes to reforesting. The manatee eats a lot of plants. And when they defecate, they produce organic matter that increases the nutrients of the ocean, not only for the plant, but for fish, for what we eat. In spite of being herbivorous, it helps carnivores, having a greater production and more food production from the trophic chain, starting for those doing photosynthesis of the carnivorous, so the local fisheries, the lobster, the reefs, the fish we eat, this manatee is fertilizing the ocean for them to grow and to live. And when they eat plant, the seeds of the plants, or when they defecate, will be brought to another plant and they will be disseminated, increasing not only reforestation, but the stream again.
Of course, if you ask, you can take and who eats manatee, it says, well, the kilogram costs this, so that's a value only as a food. But it has a much bigger value as base. And if we analyze it in monetary terms, what's the work? How much would we have to reference all the marine seas, grass, all the plants to fertilize it to have fish and healthy reefs? It's an unimaginable cost. So losing this species will cost us millions of pesos. And frankly, thank you so much, Doctor. Good morning. You mentioned a little bit the value of the biodiversity. Why in the case of marine mammals, they are de las especies que te invadieron la Universidad de analysis of the value of maps. We don't have the elements to do this analysis. The problem of assigning a price is from the vision itself. For example, there are cultures whose god is a marine mammal. There are cultures venerate in India, cows, for example. They have a value assigned. So assigning a monetary price is really difficult. So let's give an example of marine mammal. How many people we know have a sticker, an image, a logo of a dolphin, of a whale? How many do they have a tattoo of a dolphin? But how many of the people I know have a tattoo of a porpoise, of a beetle? But it's much more common of a marine mammal because it's more attractive. So the cost increases because the animals are attracting to people. I always give it as example, a dolphin and a shark of the same size, same place here in the Caribe, for example. They are both present. People like the dolphin more than the sharks. So if you save a dolphin, you're a hero. If you kill a shark, you're also a hero, but you're doing different things. If you look at the dolphin on the ocean and you hit it or you kill it, you are the bad guy. But if you do it with a shark, you're a hero. Before swimming on the ocean is a dolphin, everybody brings out a camera. If it says a shark, they all leave the water because the perception of a human being is different. But ecologically speaking, they have the same size, they eat at the same time, they comply with the same function. The contribution to the ecosystem is similar, the ecological cost is similar, the work they do is the same, but the value that the human being assigns to them, to the aesthetic, the cultural thing, is higher. This is why dolphin aquariums and not the shark aquariums, as a human perspective that changes the value. But assigning the price is sometimes very difficult. So assigning a price to all species, we should analyze how much would the cost be if this species would exist, if I have to pay for the work that these species do, how much will I have to pay? And unfortunately, we don't know it until the lost species are lost. Unfortunately, hopefully, this will never happen with this species or with any other species, but this is how it goes, how we assign a value. That's it. Thank you. Any other questions that you would like to ask? Thank you. With respect to the last question, I would like to know específicamente de la especie de manatí. The manatee species, if there is any restriction to help the population with captivity breeding. We have seen that some species have helped recover the species. In the case of manatee, that is already endangered species. Is there any restriction in your actual plan to preserve the species in captivity? This is interesting because for the manatee specifically, above all the action plans that exist, There are three components. One is other wild species, to study them, to preserve them. Two, their ecosystems. And the third one is captivity recycling. And this is why captive breeding programs are considered, because manatee it can be managed very easily in captivity. And breeding them in captivity is important because they also help us to repopulate, to breed them back. There are places where there are no longer manatees and they are living. And they come to Mexico telling us, hey, give us some manatees, please. Sometimes the law is difficult because it is forbidden to export animals. Well, but this is for rebreeding. But what will the consequence be? What will the cost be? So in the case of Mexico, it is allowed to captive breeding of manatees. However, we don't cannot generate only new elements, but the breeding, the lost one, the ones that are lost, is important. Our captivity is important because no even female manatee will say, "Hey, I will adopt you. I'm not your mom, but I will adopt you." No, this pet is destined to die, or any sick, wounded animal, or that is beached or lost. Captivity will help him to improve, to introduce him back into the cycle. I've helped you. I know you are a key species. I won't let you die. I will help you, but this has a cost. Well, then we say, well, the species has a price. I have to pay 10,000 pesos for the medication. And the people that is taking care of it, feeding it, being inside the water, how much was the cost of hiring this staff? And we are not breeding the species, we're trying not to lose it. So this is how we assign a price, but it is really important to have captive breeding programs, and it is included in this plan. It was strengthened in 2021. This plan was made available last year. You can read it if you want, and we can speak a lot more about this part, which is very clearly explained in the plan, but it is included in the action plan process, called in Spanish. One more question, please, and then we continue. No, but one PS. Good morning, Doctor. Said my government saw it wasn't done. Just as the use of plastic bags was even prohibited in the markets, what law would you create or would you use to safeguard biodiversity? At least in the Mexican Caribbean. I am very radical. My wife tells me, don't do that. When I see that somebody is throwing garbage, I would like to go and hold up. But, well, laws, besides of the very severe penalties to those polluting, I believe that we will make it mandatory or to invite the citizens to use more frequently our resources. But it is useless that we separate our garbage, we buy locally, we support circular economy, we make efforts every day. Even our system, industrial, economic system is based on a massive extraction. This is where the laws must change. This is what use there is in having that in 1 minute taking care of the water. If there is a company that is international beside that extracts water, very large amounts, and they will never return it, and they pay less for less than what I pay my own water bill. So this is not fair. We could have a great intention individually, but if we don't do something collectively, we don't issue opinion for these policies to change locally, nationally, federally, and worldwide, then we will continue with the same thing. But beyond of applying or enacting these individual laws on people, I believe we would need a political management of changing. It is really difficult to tell a company, I know that this is your economy, that this is how you give jobs, etc., but we need a drastic change in the way we do it. Otherwise, we will never go ahead. We will never move forward. And this is one way, but there are many other ways. One, producing plastic every day, it is less expensive than having a paper bag or something more environmentally friendly, but it's just a way of changing our lives. This is the laws I would enact would be more at the level of management of the industry. We haven't developed the point yet. Without neglecting what we can all do daily. That way, what way, because it was really impressive. When this thing, the Bakita, where it in that up to 9 or 10 elements separate or die left. And it made me think that this will happen with all the species. With all the plastic invading the brain of the human beings and invading the bodies of all the animals on the sea. What will happen? That's is this a sad story of the world today? Plastic. One of the current evils. Yesterday we had a conversation about plastic, saying, well, perhaps I don't eat plastic as human being. Animals do, but manatee says, well, they won't eat a bag. They could die because the bag is stuck in their stomach, or perhaps they can eliminate it and nothing will happen. But there are things that we see. Captain was telling us by breathing, because plastic with the sun, with nature, heat, the night, water, cold, the plastic breaks in smaller and smaller pieces. The piece, plastic bag or a plastic container breaks down in spite of being many years in ecosystems, sometimes even 40 years. It is reduced to so small fragments that the air can drag it. Microscopic fragments, and we could breathe it in. And this would be even much more severe, because this plastic that we breathe in goes to our blood, to our tissues. Like the captain was telling us, the problem with having plastic in our brains is that plastic is not electrically conductive. It blocks all electrical connections of the neurons that form a synapse, and they were getting dumber. We think less. Our brain is working less if we have plastic in our mind. So we accumulate and breathe in more plastic every day, and we produce more human beings with more plastic. Not only are we going to extinguish all the populations of animals, but a human being as well. So this is how, like, locating our own grave, a world of plastic, grave of plastic. But it is not only animals, it is us as well. We are throwing up plastic, and it will fall down on top of us when we throw it up. Thank you so much.